Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Project Stargate Fringe Research. I'm your host, Mark Brenner,
I'm your co-host, Jake Malcolm.
And I'm a visiting co host, She the Medium.
and we are so glad to be here today together. I'm really excited. Today, we got a special guest, Jeremiah Dorph, and we're going to get into him here in a few minutes. But before that, um, I wanted to make an announcement to everybody. She, the medium, is now an official member and co-host of Project Stargate Fringe Research. I am so thankful and happy to announce this. She has got a lot of good experience of managing a YouTube channel. She's also put out some incredible videos. She's also a gifted psychic. She does have adept psychic abilities, and she's a very open-minded and wonderful individual, very compassionate individual, and we're so thankful to have her officially in our fellowship. Jake, I'm really happy to have her. I'm so stoked about this.
I want to thank you, Mark, as well, for inviting me and having me and seeing these qualities of me as a value and attribute to the project. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm grateful to be here.
Definitely, man. We're stoked that you're here, and I hate that Greg couldn't. I hate that Greg couldn't make it. He's actually had a family affair to attend to this evening, but at any rate, this has been a wild week. Just crazy stuff going on. I'm just blown. This stuff with Speaker Pelosi and China and Taiwan. That stuff is just weird. What? Just real quick, just give me a 5 minute take or less on this situation, and I'll start with you, She.
So yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of hothead, the threats and stuff from China. And we know that Russia and China have formed a pact. They're in that BRICS pact together, along with India. In India claiming to, be enemies with China. That's disturbing because we have a lot of them here as well. So there's a lot going on that's suspicious. And whenever we get into these kinds of, when we start to feel this way about what's going on, I just like to bring it back to the individual and just, remind everybody to just, prepare and stay ready. Just stay ready because it's just so evident that our country is going through so much. It's so layered, and just try not to get lost in it. Just bring it back to self and try to keep a level head and just again prepare your food, your medicine, your weapons, your backup ammo. Whatever you're able to do, and just stay vigilant and just stay ready. That's all you can do.
That's well said, Jake. Jake, have you had time? I know how crazy your schedule is between working and everything, and doing things with your musical talent. But have you had a chance to pay attention to this crazy visit to Taiwan, China's threats about it? Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, I've been paying a little bit of attention to it. What I think we're seeing here is we are in a midterm election year, so I think we're seeing a little bit of political posturing. A party that has really failed to stand or even ride a bike during its current administration, trying to show itself in a stronger fashion. Standing up to China and making a stance, even though it may not be safe in the volatile situation that we've already got going on with Russia. Um, Further evidence of that would be a Al Qaeda leader that was taken out of the blue. Um, just a bit more posturing and tactics, I think, for an election year, and I think we see that with both sides every year.
That it is, and I well said as well, Jake. And I don't care what this is not really this is not meant as a political podcast, but sometimes some of the stuff is hard to ignore. Regardless of what party or side of the political spectrum you claim to be on, or whatever, regardless of who you vote for, this should be an eye-opening thing for everybody, for all Americans, and it certainly got my attention. and it's just really bizarre. And I pray for the safety for the world right now. It's just these are scary times we're living in.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing I can add to that is, I was going through cleaning out pictures in my phone today, and I got back to the beginning of the COVID lockdown and how I had pictures of how desolate everything was, nothing on the shelves and everything. And that already seems like it's so long ago, but it was a really crazy time, and we bounced back from that relatively quick. We're still struggling, but we don't, have completely empty shelves anymore, even though there are some supply chain issues. So whatever's coming, I think, we'll bounce back from it. We always have.
And now we got monkeypox. Without revealing your exact medical profession, because we don't want to do that on this show at all. But having a degree of knowledge in the medical field, what's your take on this monkeypox business?
Well, I think it's another engineered thing. They put these things out periodically. They're blaming the homosexual population now, just as they did with with AIDS, and so I mean, I think this is just like just like with COVID, they had to come out with something else, because then they're going to tell us we need new shots. And I don't know, if anyone's familiar with what is that, it's like SIDS, but it's for adults. All these people that are dying, and doctors are baffled, they don't know why, and they don't want to make the connection to the shot. A lot of people have died from that shot and so forth. So I think that a lot of these germs and things are, I think they're by design, a lot of them, and it's for an agenda. And as conspiratorial as that sounds, I find it hard to believe that it's not. I mean, there's more proof pointing to these things being highly suspicious, the timing, tying it to the homosexual population, indicating that, by certain means of intercourse, that's the only way, knowing very well that heterosexual couples engage in some of the same practices. So
they can get it just as easily.
Right. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I mean, you're here long enough, and you're privy to, you do your research. This stuff is just like, it's just more of the same, it's just repackaged. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just repackaged, more of the same. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, okay. So that's my take on it.
Well, these are scary times we're living in. I feel like for the last several years, I felt like that I'm living in an episode of The Twilight Zone. It's just so bizarre. I mean, just as bizarre as it can be. Just everything that's happened.
I've been feeling like that too. A lot of things. I've actually verbally said that. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Yeah. So, but Jake, you can go ahead.
Well, today we got a very special guest for today. His name is Jeremiah Dorph, and he is the host of the What If They're Wrong podcast, and which I was a guest on a month ago or something like that. But anyway, Jeremiah Dorph, he got into fringe topics at an early age, and like a lot of us, he loved to watch unsolved mysteries and X-Files, and that curiosity eventually evolved into a life passion, which a lot of people get into this, like myself and like you, because we've had bizarre experiences. Well, he's got into this strictly out of curiosity, and he's been fairly successful at it. Also, it's worth noting that Jeremiah Dorph is also he just got back from a trip from Peru, and he went all over the country, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that. So I think here in just a second he's going to be with us. He should be with us here any second now. We're just going to wait for him to come into the conversation. I gave him the cue to join us, and he should just be clicking on his link here any moment. But at any rate, we're really happy to have him with us this evening. Unfortunately, we were going to record last week, but unfortunately, he was feeling under the weather, and we're really glad he's doing better. So thankful to have him with us, and he should be with us here in just a minute. Yeah, just a minute. He said he's logging in right now, so he should be here any moment. But anyway, after there's a couple other things we can talk about after we're done talking to him. There's definitely a couple things we could talk about as far as whether we could either do it in a meeting or we could do it in a private meeting or we could talk about it here. I just assume talk about it here on the program so we can share these ideas with everybody.
I actually wanted to get Jake's viewpoint on the question you asked me about monkeypox. Sorry, to see how he feels about it or what his thoughts are.
After we're done with this interview, let's continue. We can continue this conversation. We can definitely continue that and some other things. But anyway, he should be with us here any moment. Just sit patiently here for a second until he joins us. And let's see here. Hang on just a moment. Let me see what he's doing. All right, and we're here with Jeremiah Dorph. Jeremiah, thank you so much for being with us, and welcome to Project Stargate.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. I know we talked on my show, so returning the favor.
Man, I tell you what, I had a good time. I had a great time hanging out with you. You've got a great program going. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, I would like to. How did you tell us a little bit about how you got into these fringe topics and what drove? Have you had personal experiences? Is it a fascination that evolved into an obsessive, maybe a career for you in some ways? How did all this come about?
So I can remember being very young, and my dad doesn't like to admit it, but he's into like all the fringe stuff too. So
sounds like my dad.
Yeah, like he's very like straight laced and like business minded, and but he's still. I catch him watching Ancient Aliens and other programs and stuff like that. So he tries to hide it, but when he's around me, he's a little more loose with it.
That is hysterical.
I just remember, I remember when we were growing up, I was young, and he would watch that show Unsolved Mysteries, and then X-Files, of course, and I just really started getting into it, even though at first Unsolved Mysteries scared me because I was a little kid. And
was it the music?
The music and that guy's voice, and it just freaked me out. But I still watched all the stuff, and I just remember seeing they had one about aliens and UFOs and abductions. I can't remember exactly what the episode was called. It was a long time ago, but I just remember it like instantly like piqued my interest. And then they had ones about like Bigfoot and just unexplained stuff. And then if you fast forward, and then I started like, I don't know, kind of getting away. When I was a teen, I was trying to be like a rebel and hanging with the wrong crowd and stuff like that, and did some stupid stuff. But then around like, I don't know, 08, 09, I don't remember exactly when, I had a near-death experience, and
wow.
It really like changed me. It's crazy. And then I started like looking into conspiracies because I was like, well, what's up with this near-death stuff? And it led me down other paths of like conspiracies, and I started getting like really into that, like Coast to Coast AM and David Icke, and back then there were so many YouTube videos and channels that were available to watch. I know now it's heavily censored, but
yeah, unfortunately, yeah,
and I started getting down all these rabbit holes, and then at some point it started like freaking me out like a lot. Like, I don't know, I had to take a break from it because it was just too much information, and I got into that, crazy conspiracy tinfoil hat like mindset where I thought like the world was crumbling in, and I was like freaking out. And so then I like kind of took a break from it, and then I started getting back into it with like Ancient Aliens and looking at that stuff and looking at ancient history. And then I started listening to like the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had people like Graham Hancock on and
Yeah,
other
love Joe
people.
Rogan, man. Love Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I like that he touches various topics, and he's kind of like it's kind of like my show where he like just throws it out there, and so he lets his guests just talk about what they know, and it's kind of like a judgment-free zone, which I like.
Well, that's what you're going to have here, my friend. Today we have a safe place for people to talk about unusual and hard things, and you're welcome here. I'm fascinated by your background. Let's kick it off. Tell us about. I've studied near-death experiences. My God, my uncle had a near-death experience and he told me back when I was 8, and then I saw an Unsolved Mysteries segment. I saw a couple of them, and one of which had a guy named Howard Storm on it, and he was on my program. He was my first guest I ever had, actually, when I first started Project Stargate, ironically. But tell us about what happened. Can we start with that? Can we start with the near-death experience and talk about that?
Yeah, so like I said, it was like 08, 09, and I was very depressed, suicidal almost, and I consider myself an atheist. I read books from like Dawkins, I think that's his name, and then Hitchens, I think was the other one. And I just, kind of was consider myself an atheist and didn't believe in anything after life or whatever, and was really into that and really depressed and kind of like down and out. And then one night, it was just a random night, nothing special about it. I just got off work, came home, played some video games, and went to sleep. And my brother and his now wife were living with me, and I only know because I woke him up. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. But sometime after I went to sleep, it's hard to explain. It was like my consciousness was floating, and it was like this dark tunnel with like a light at the end of it. Like, you hear all the time, like the light at the end of the tunnel. And it was like super bright white, but you could look at it. It wasn't like the sun where your eyes hurt after you stare at it for a second or two. But it was like intensely bright white, and my being is how I describe it, I guess, because I didn't see myself or my body or anything, was like just headed towards this light, like floating almost. And about halfway up, I started getting this intense feeling of like love and peace and warmth, and like something I don't think I'll ever experience on Earth. It was just too intense. Like I felt like I was where I was supposed to be, kind of thing. And like the love and warmth was just
Wow,
amazing. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like and then I was floating up or getting pulled toward this light. I don't know the verbiage, but and then all of a sudden I saw like, I don't even know how to describe it, like shadowy figures. It was like silhouettes of people, but I couldn't see like any faces or anything that sets them apart. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and they just started like calling to me in this like super angelic voice, like so loving and compassionate and warmth, and they were just saying like, it's okay, you can come, don't be scared. And they just kept repeating like, don't be scared, you can come to the light, it's fine, or whatever. And something just like clicked in me, and I say clicked in my brain because I don't have another way to describe it. But something clicked in my brain when I was like 75% of the way towards this light, and I I just started like screaming at them like at the top of my lungs, and I just kept yelling, "No, I'm not ready yet. I can't come. I have a mission on Earth. I haven't completed my mission yet. I need to go back to Earth." And I just kept yelling and yelling and saying, "I have a mission. I have something I need to do. I'm not ready to go yet." And about the fifth time, sixth time, um, just this crazy force, kind of like, the only way I can describe it is like being shot out of a gun. And I just went straight back to my body, and it wasn't like my, I know people think about like people's spirits like floating out of their body, but it wasn't like that. It was just like my consciousness like got shot back into my body, and I woke up gasping for air, like I was being held underwater for a long time. And uh like I was just gasping for air, and my chest hurt, my heart hurt, and felt like someone was like squeezing it like pretty hard. And I thought I was having a heart attack. I wasn't thinking it was a near death or anything like that at that time. But so I woke my brother up, and he's obviously pissed off because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and he wants to be asleep. And I'm like, "Josh, you got to take me to the hospital. My heart, I think I had a heart attack." So finally he agrees to take me to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. They hook me up with all these machines, do all this blood work. They have that like vest thing they put on to like monitor your heart and all that. And they like did all this blood work, and then I was there like all night from like probably like 3:30 when we got there to, I don't know, like 7 in the morning or something like that, just doing tests and waiting for results and all that stuff. And finally the doctor came in and was like, "You are completely healthy. All your blood work is perfectly fine.
Wow.
Your heart has no issues. Everything is fine." So they sent me home. So I went home, and then like 3 or 4 days after I had this experience, I felt like a light squeeze on my heart, kind of like if you have like a stress ball, that's what it kind of felt like. Someone was using my heart as a stress ball. And
Huh.
yeah, 3 or 4 days it felt like that, and then finally it faded away. But it was just so weird.
She and Jake, I want to let y'all jump in with some Q&A here. That is absolutely fascinating, and I want to hand the floor off to them for a little bit, if you don't mind, before we proceed further.
Okay, I guess I can go. So I was wondering about the dark period. What was it that brought you to that dark period, where you said that you were feeling suicidal?
I think it was mostly around like feeling alone, feeling like my brother and his fiance live with me, but I didn't have like a girlfriend at the time, and kind of was alone for a little while, and I think the loneliness was getting to me, and feeling like, you know, what's the point if I, you know, can't share anything with someone. And so I just was getting really depressed, and then the depression led me to the atheist stuff, because I was like, what's the point of all this? And if God is real and what they say, why would he let me just suffer? And typical.
Right, understandable.
So that's where I was.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I realize that's an intimate detail of your personal life. So after the experience, because it was like it feels like it was a near-death experience. Do you feel like you walked away with any extrasensory perception?
No, I don't think so. But it was like, I don't know how to describe it. Like a switch was hit on my brain or something, where I just had to find out what just happened. And then I started looking, like I said, into like conspiracy stuff. And I don't know, something was driving me to look at all the like quote unquote conspiracy stuff and find out what there's got to be more to this world and to life than what we've been told. So I kind of just went down all these different rabbit holes, and some of them I didn't agree with or didn't follow, but I just was researching as much as I could about everything.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So is there anything specifically in your research that you felt more drawn to? Like when I started, I was really drawn to like the underground caverns and stuff like that. There's this old website called Project Redbook, I think it is, and it lists all of these the caverns, the underground bases, and all of these different places all around the world. And I just felt more gravitated to that information. For reasons I think I understand a lot more clearly now. But is there anything specifically like you were more so keyed into?
So I guess there was two main things that drew most of my attention. One was the I don't know how to describe it other than the governments of the world, not just our country, and like the secret, like I guess people call it shadow government, and like the forces behind everything that's going on in the world. And I really got into looking at all that stuff and seeing like things aren't as they seem, like what they present to you. There's more going on to it than what the average person thinks. And also the second thing was I really got into the ancient past and the thought of lost civilizations and cycles of time, and how there was probably, well, just my opinion and from what I've researched and all, I believe there's civilizations before our like known history that have just been lost to time, whether we're not supposed to remember it or it just got lost because time, people forget things. But yeah, I really got down that rabbit hole too. And then of course the ancient alien thing is always there with the, all that ancient history stuff. But I kind of diverge a little bit away from that. Like whole thing is, I think there's more to it than, what the ancient alien show talks about. So I do enjoy watching that because, you do see a lot of things from around the world that make you scratch your head, and they do have some good, information in there. But
very good
but
research.
yeah, but I do think there is more to it, and the more I look into it, the more I think that there's like a interdimensional type of, I don't know other way to say it other than like a spiritual battle, or like there's some type of battle between realms. I hate saying like heaven and hell because it turns people off. A lot of people, it turns them off. So I try to keep it as saying like it's like a spiritual war. So yeah.
Wow.
Sorry if I ramble. You can
No,
That was good. Thank you.
That
Thank you
was
for
a
sharing.
great response. Thank you very much. And I agree with you. I think that there's definitely interdimensional and in some degree some kind of spiritual aspect to the UFO thing. And I definitely see that it's connected to other types of paranormal phenomenon in one way or another. So that was a great response, and I definitely agree. Jake, what you got, brother?
So on the topic of the near-death experience, did anything specific, can you remember anything leading up to that instant moment when you recall kind of looking down around you? Was there anything, maybe you felt a little weird before you went to bed? Just what would have triggered a near-death experience?
No, honestly, it was just a normal night, and I didn't really notice anything at all. And when when my consciousness started like heading towards the light, I say floating, but I'm not talking about like floating in water or anything. But when that happened, it was just almost like I couldn't see anything other than that light, and I knew there was darkness around me, but all I could see was the light, and then like darkness was like all around except for that light, and I couldn't see my body. I couldn't see anything else.
And how quickly after your consciousness was back into your body, so to say, were you able to up and move and sit up? Were you able to sit up right away, or did it take a second to wake up? Do you remember?
So when my consciousness got shot back into my body, I literally like went like this and like sat up in bed, like just gasping for air, kind of like if you were like underwater for like a long time and you were like just about out of breath. So
Sure.
it was kind of like I was just trying to get any type of like air into my lungs, and then like I said, it felt like someone, the only way I can describe it is it felt like a hand was like squeezing my heart and like trying to like, I don't know, crush it for lack of a better word. But and that feeling lasted until probably little after I got to the hospital, and then it started to like just feel like something was just lightly squeezing it.
Interesting. That's definitely bizarre to say the least. Yeah.
But
Sure.
I was probably in bed gasping for air for a good like I'd say probably like 5 minutes before I went and got my brother and said I got to go to the hospital. And he
Have
was
you
like,
ever had? Oh,
"Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead."
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say he was like, "Are you serious, bro?" I was like, "Yes."
So have you, and just, I 100% believe you, but just playing devil's advocate for the people who are watching. Have you ever had a history of sleep paralysis or anything like that?
No, I've had zero issues with anything. I've always been healthy, and I've always ate, you know, I haven't, well, lately I haven't been too good, I have to admit, but at that
Who have?
time, yeah, I didn't eat like anything, like I never touched fast food. I ate healthy. I exercise. I like to hike, so I was always hiking and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't. And then the doctor was like, everything's perfectly fine. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, good
Wow.
questions, man.
Yeah.
You know, I find I'm like I said earlier, I'm very intrigued. My cat here is having a good time. I'm very intrigued with near-death experiences because it's touched the lives of so many people, and the transformation is real. Um, are you still? Do you still consider yourself an atheist, or do you believe in God now, or where do you stand spiritually, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh yeah, I can definitely share. I am. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I obviously am no longer an atheist. I think there is a God or creator or whatever
Yes.
you want to call it. Um, I just I just believe it. Um,
Yeah.
and especially with my experience and feeling that like love and peace and warmth and all that stuff, like I can't even put it, I couldn't, if I took like my best day that I've had on earth, and I'm 40 years old, and that wouldn't even come close to what I felt when I was floating up there.
And
And I've had some good days in my life.
that's the consensus, and it's a very powerful experience that us as humans really can't, we don't have the ability to process that information. I don't believe we do. um, but it, I think it's time where this is a good spot for us to go to break, but when we come back, I want to talk more about. I want to talk about your what this UFO stuff is. So what more about what we all think might be going on and how it connects to other paranormal phenomenon. And then I'd like to hear about your trip to Peru, if you don't mind. I think I think that'd be a great way to fill us in on our next segment. That you're listening to Project Stargate Fringe Research. We're here with Jeremiah Dorph, host of the What If They're Wrong podcast, and we'll be right back. All right, and welcome back to Project Stargate Friends Research. We're here today with my co-host Jake and she, and we have our special guest Jeremiah Dorph. And welcome back, Jeremiah. Thank you again for being with us.
Oh yeah, definitely enjoying it.
Before we went to break, we were talking about your near-death experience, and that was a very interesting story, and it does fall in line with a lot of other testimonies of people who've had similar experiences. We kind of mentioned in passing the whole thing with what's going on with UFOs. I like to, I think for just a few moments at least, I like to have like a short round table discussion here. And um, Jeremiah, I want to start with you. I want to give you the floor first, and what I want to know from each of you, and then I'll give my opinion as well. On your honest opinion, what do you think the origin of these UFOs are? The beings that may or may not be piloting these vehicles up to through the abduction scenario. What do you think is going on? Where do you think they're from? And I'll let you go ahead and start.
Okay, so my take on the whole UFO and alien abduction and all that stuff is, um, it's more on the religious side. Even though I'm not really religious, I'm more like spiritual. So when I say these things, I'm not coming from the point of like, you know, what people consider your typical like Bible thumping person. I'm just coming from it from a spiritual aspect, and I think that the aliens are like interdimensional beings, and I think that they come from I don't know how else to say it other than like a demonic realm. And whether that's a lower vibrational realm or, like a literal place like hell, for lack of a better term, it's like, I think that they found a way somehow to pierce the veil of the dimensions and come into our reality. Now, that could have been from the beginning of time, because there are, stories about what would seem UFOs in the Bible and other scriptures. So they might have just been around forever. I don't know. But I think there's some type of war going on, for lack of a better term. It's like you have the higher dimensional realm, which people would say heaven, and then you have the lower dimensional realm, which people would call hell. And I think they have, I don't know how to say it, like pacts, like there's different code of conducts that they have to follow and do, or else they can't do what they want to do. So I think like the alien abduction thing is, you notice they have a lot of like the hybridization program where they're trying to, create offspring with humans and their DNA. And if you go back to biblical times, you have, the fallen angels. And I think that has just been taken on a different spin than the way I take it. Is like, I think these spiritual entities, these lower vibrational entities, came through the veil between dimensions, or whatever it is, and they commingled with primitive human people and created the Nephilim, the offspring. And I
Genesis
think that,
chapter 6.
yeah, and I think that's still going on to this day. And I think there's something keeping them at bay. And I think the whole hybridization program is them just tampering with, intermingling and trying to create their own life and trying to, be God or whatever creator, trying to say they are just as good or above, whatever the creative force is, but they fail. And that's why you hear women who have been abducted that see babies that are hybrids, but they're always like sickly, or they have no emotion, or they're like dying, or something's not right with them. And a lot of times you hear the aliens are saying, hold the baby needs you, it needs your touch, it needs you to hold it. And I've even interviewed 2 women who have got abducted and had procedures done where a long needle was inserted into their stomach while they were pregnant, and they think that they were, tampering with their child in the womb, or doing tests. And I think it all just plays into that original Genesis chapter 6, like you said, where, and I say that in non-religious Bible thumping way.
Right,
I'm
I
saying that,
understand.
yeah, I'm saying that in like a spiritual warfare type of way. And I think they're working towards, and this might all be planned out and mapped out already. Like, you have talks of like revelations and stuff where things are going to happen in the future. And I think maybe it is inevitable, but I think as of right now, they're like tampering with stuff. And I think that the aliens are working with our governmental bodies. And I think back in the Roswell crash, 1947, I truly believe that the aliens traded secrecy for technology. And they basically told the government officials that, hey, you know what we are now, keep us a secret and we'll give you technology and power and, make you, the elites that you are today. And I think that stuff's still probably going on. And there might actually be good and bad aliens too. I don't know. Because you always hear talks about like Nordics, and they seem to be more pleasant and more like for the good of humanity. And then you have, your typical like gray and mantis type beings that seem a little more devious and up to something. And yeah, I think that's what it all boils down to.
Wow, that's when I'm going to go last in this roundtable discussion, but I'm going to comment on a lot of what you just said because my theory is very similar. You have the floor.
Okay, so I'm thinking that some of them are extra dimensionals. Many of them are Earth-based technology, repurposed technology. I have some of my videos go into like the extra dimensional travels and stuff that I've experienced. So I think, some of them are coming from other dimensions, some of them are coming from other planes. But I think most of what we're seeing are just government-based vehicles. As far as their agenda, I think they're parasites. I think if there were any good groups that were legitimately good, because you see a lot of identity politics around these different types of beings, right? There's a lot of hate for reptilians, but that's not my experience with the reptilians. And then you see like a lot of admonishment for like the typical Anglo-featured ones. And so I feel like the whole thing is it can be politicized, and that's kind of ridiculous because I think that if you're coming here as an intelligent species and you see the situation, you know what's happening to children, you know very well that this is a bloodletting world, which is keeping this planet in a low vibration, and you're not doing anything effectively to contribute, but you're coming here for something. So there's a very parasitic nature. And I know that, or parasitic agenda to some extent. I know that there are people who have been healed from ailments. There's some popular cases, particularly in South America, where people have been healed from cancer and things like that from their visitations, but they've also been taken like historically. So, it's hard to say like, I just find it hard to believe that the things that are going on here and the advances that these different groups have, it's like, why are you coming here? You're coming here for resources or what? Because the suffering here is immense, and they are in a position to help
Amen.
some people, So, I just have to question the whole, that whole thing. Because as many places that I've been, both astrally and here, My findings are not the same as what David Icke has claimed. And I know that David Icke is ex-MI6. So I question him. And when I found that out, and I found out what he did to Credo Mutwa, I lost all faith in that guy.
Can you touch on that just really quick? Can you touch on that? Because for those of us who might not be familiar with that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Credo Mutwa was like a Zulu priestess. That's who he got a lot of his information from, and he did something as far as like stealing information or conning him or something. Whatever it was nefarious. I don't know the details, but I know that they don't have a relationship because David basically exploited him, and there was some information that came out years ago where David was outed as being involved in the Diana crash by some people that worked with him in MI6. And this was a very public person who was out there saying that, this is not who you think he is. And you got to remember too, like these people that come out and say all of these things, they're doing well financially. They're all over the place, as opposed to people like Danny Casolaro and Paul Wilcher and others who have been murdered in the most heinous ways for talking about things they shouldn't have been talking about. People that could prove that they worked in the government, in some branch of the government, like William Cooper, how he was set up and murdered, and all these other people. So I would really question these people who come out and say what they say, and who have no trouble moving around. So David Icke is definitely. He was one that I bought the books and stuff. I was in Barnes and Noble. I was, but then you find out and you really start stepping back, and I'm like, well, why? How did these other people get murdered when they're talking about, and they have physical evidence of encounters, and so you really have to question that stuff. So my response is very long, but
that's okay. That's what
you learn a lot. You learn a lot. You observe, and you have to make sense of what you're hearing and seeing. But the reptilian thing, that's not my experience.
Wow, that's very, very, very interesting, and I thank you for sharing your thoughts on that.
Okay.
Jake, you're up, buddy.
So my theory, first of all, who has watched any Animal Planet Discovery Channel where they go out and they tag fish or anything to track fish, right?
Okay.
We've all seen something like that, right?
Yeah.
Just something. All right, now we've all seen Deadliest Catch, same fish getting scooped up. I think what we're seeing is the resemblance of, eventually at some point we started causing attention to ourselves, not the resemblance, the effect. We started causing attention to ourselves. I think that there are multiple different beings out in the galaxy or universe or wherever they may be, maybe even on our solar system somewhere, coming in and doing what we would do if we found some unknown or little known species. If at some point they discovered that we were intelligent, some of them might have gone to certain governments and made pacts, traded technologies, such things that they would do in that situation. In return, perhaps that, they granted some kind of energy, nuclear energy, or
0 point energy.
Some type of energy or biologic, we see a lot of these abductions, a lot of people getting their cows mutilated, cases of Skinwalker Ranch. Some type of deal that they would investigate situations like that. They would cover that up for their own, the UFO intergalactic species' own protection.
Wow. That's very interesting. Those were really, really good responses, and I thank each and every one of you for your thoughts on that. So I want to go into, I'll go into my spiel, and I want to preface with this. For those of you who don't know, I come at things from a very spiritual point of view and a science point of view. In other words, I believe in God and science. I believe God created science as we know it today, or as we understand it thus far, I should say. That's the point of view I come through as far as the general theory of everything for me. Now, to respond, in my response to all three of you, I believe that all three of you are correct. And this is why. Number one, I'll start with you, Jake. I think that there, in some degree, there's some that going on for nefarious purposes. I believe that is one of their. I believe that's definitely one of their MOs.
There's some
I think,
good, there's some bad.
yeah, and I'm going to touch on that here in just a minute. Also, the good and bad thing. I think that you're onto something as well. I think that there may be multiple agendas at play here. I really do. I really appreciate your take on that. Now, Jeremiah, my core beliefs are kind of, as far as the root of the problem of what their deep dark agenda is. I think it's close to what you're talking about. Now, during the course of my research, I'm gonna just kind of list the following things that lead me to this belief. Number one, there's a lot of paranormal phenomenon associated with UFOs. Let's just face it. There's no denying it at this point. The beings that are supposedly operate within these devices or craft, they have remarkable paranormal abilities. So that's number one. Number two, I had a conversation with Howard Storm, who was on my program. I mentioned him earlier. He had a remarkable, life-changing near-death experience like you did. He was in it's a very long story. I think you ought to check it out sometime. He'd be a really good interview for your show, by the way. A really good interview. But anyway, he said that during the course he was having a conversation with our creator, and one of the questions he asked him, it was about other types of beings besides humans, like ETs or whatever. And very, very bluntly, God said yes. He showed him all these examples of different types of beings. He said the ones, though, that are currently interacting with mankind are up to no good. And that is a quotation from what God told him. Now, I see some evidence of that. There are some rare encounters that I've heard of I've seen it seems that they are divine, almost divine in nature. I think, but what we're dealing with right now is a kind of like with as far as the experiments with the hybridization, I believe what we are seeing is definitely some sort of rehash of Genesis chapter 6. I've been saying that for a long time. It's refreshing to hear someone else notice that, who are thinking outside the box. I want to congratulate you for that and thank you for that, bringing that up. And I think that the main group of entities that are interacting right now with us humans, and taking some of our cattle and mutilating our cattle and other things, I think that these entities are up to no good. I see all the evidence I have personally seen points towards that, and I could be wrong. And I think, I do think there are some good, some other types of non-human beings out there that are good. But I think that at minimum, I think that these entities, especially the little gray guys, the ones I've had encounters with, I believe that they're batting for the other team, and I think that I think that they're working in some way with the fallen angels. I believe that. I have very good reason to believe this. I believe that the small grays, I believe what they are, as Daryl Sims put it really well. I believe that these are biological androids or something like that. I think that we're dealing with something that's cloned or manufactured in some way for the purpose of interacting with mankind. dragging you out of your car in the middle of the day in broad daylight, snatching people off the streets in the middle of Manhattan in broad daylight, doing all these things that are seem magical is because they are magical. They're insanely. They're using some sort of technology and magical abilities, some sort of combination of the two. I believe is what is at play. I believe that the fallen angels have orchestrated a huge attack on mankind for some purpose. But I also believe that, like, in the book of Ezekiel, there's talks about in the historical account. It talked about the Ezekiel's will. I do believe that there are good beings that are not angels, that our Creator may have used for his wonderful purpose, to serve mankind in a special way. Like, I believe angels are here to serve, to look after us and whatnot, and be our protectors and our guides. I believe that there may be some non-human ET or interdimensional ET type beings that had the same agenda. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I stand. I could be wrong, and I know I'm long-winded, but I don't apologize. Any comments?
I appreciate your perspective as well. I think it could be any and all of, you know, it's, I think it can be very layered and, who knows, but one thing we do know is that it's happening and it's real. So
Exactly, and I like hearing other people's opinions on it because, like I said earlier, after hearing all three of you talk on this subject and express your point of view, I see some truth. Whether I agree or disagree with the outcome of your opinion, I see so much truth and evidence that all three of you have brought up that is really incredible. And that's why I think all of us are an important piece of the paranormal puzzle. I think all of us are an essential piece, and I thank all of you for your expressing your opinion and bringing the subject to light with me.
Yeah, I'd like to add something if I can.
Sure, go ahead, please.
So what leads me, I'll just give some examples of what leads me to think they're interdimensional, not from like other planets.
Yeah.
And I might get some hate for this, but and I might sound crazy, but I'm starting to think that there is no other life out there. I think we are the only life. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know. There's something in me that says like there's no life on any other planet. I think it's all just for show. I think that our little third rock from the sun or whatever it is like a special place, and I think the spiritual war is over this like realm. I think because a lot of other realms are not like physical like we are, so
Right.
like on this plane you get to experience all the emotions, you get to feel, touch stuff, and I think in other dimensions and other realms you don't really have that same thing. And I also think the interdimensional aspect, I think the fact that these aliens can just phase people through walls or ceilings or right out of their car, and
the paranormal aspects of this.
Yeah, the paranormal aspect. It's just beyond what I would think of like it, aliens from outer space coming and doing.
Exactly.
So that's another aspect I have. And then the third thing and final thing is that there's people who take psychedelics, because I cover that on my show as well. And you have like mushrooms, ayahuasca, stuff like that. And people who've had these types of experience, they'll tell you that they've come in encounter with what you would consider a gray alien, like your typical alien. So like, how are they having that experience if they're from outer space coming? You know what I mean? It's just another aspect of it that through my research, like, just
interesting,
makes me think.
What's your thoughts on that?
Very interesting take. I appreciate you expressing it. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I think that may have crossed my mind a bit when you said there may be like, the planet third thing from the sun. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and it's worth exploring. So I appreciate your opinion on it, definitely, Jeremiah.
Like
Jake?
I said, it's not a common opinion, but it's just something I think
It's
about.
all good.
Jake,
Yeah,
what's
it's
your
all
take
good.
on psychedelics in this? What do you think there's a connection?
I don't particularly think there is. That being said, I'm not as well versed in ufology and psychedelics as most people may be. What I do think that there are extraterrestrials on other planets somewhere. Now, the distance that these planets would be, it would take some type of interdimensional travel or opening up some type of hyper lane, whatever they would use to travel in, such a small period of time.
Agreed.
Some people have proposed even using black holes. Now, using that technology, who's to say, what technology they wouldn't have to get someone to phase through a roof or something, or even maybe it's possibly a missing memory of not remembering floating out of a window and then up or something, you know? I am definitely not as well versed in this subject.
Well, your guess
Yeah.
is as good as anybody's, man.
Yeah. It's all theories, so
Exactly.
whatever.
It's all theory.
Yeah, my stuff is just a theory, just like the next person is, because no one knows the truth.
Exactly.
Right. And it's fun to explore it.
It is fun to explore it, and I really appreciate and enjoy hearing other people's ideas about stuff like this, and that's how we grow and learn from one another. You don't have to agree on everything, but man alive, these conversations. This is a think tank, man. This is how we learn stuff. Jeremiah, let's talk about can we talk about your trip to Peru?
Yeah, definitely.
And also, you can screen share for our viewers. If there's any pictures you like to screen share, feel free to use the screen share feature on Skype.
If I can figure out how to do that. Oh, here it is. I don't know how many pictures I uploaded on my computer yet, but
I can share one real quick if you'd like. I can share one really quick. Oh, wait a minute. Did you get it?
I don't know I just hit screen share, but nothing happened. Or do you see me, or did I switch?
I see your desktop. So yes, you're successfully screen sharing.
Okay.
We're good.
So let me see. You're going into the secret files of the What If the Wrong podcast.
Dun dun dun. That's awesome. We have eyes only access. Only a Project Stargate exclusive.
So there's me at Machu Picchu.
God, I love that picture, bro. You remind me of
Beautiful.
you know who you remind me of, bro. I gotta tell you this. You are like Josh Gates, or you're like that Josh Gates guy on Expedition Unknown, except you're cooler than he is.
Yeah, I like that.
I like Josh Gates. I think you're way cooler than he is. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah, this is me at Machu Picchu, and a very interesting site. And this one's not as crazy as the Sacsayhuaman site, and I don't think I have a picture of that on here. But yeah, you have this complex with all these buildings, and it's literally on top of a mountain. Like, you have to take a train to this small little town, and then you have to ride this like bus up the whole entire mountain. It takes for like ever, it feels like.
Wow.
And then you finally get to the top, and you can just see like all these Andes mountains, and you can stand up on this like platform thing and look over the whole city, which they say was the Inca city. And it could have been at one time, but I also think through all my travel through Peru that there was a people and a time before that that's just been lost to time. There's me in the Sacred
That's
Valley,
beautiful.
I think it was.
Can y'all, she and Jake, can you see these pictures okay?
Yes, they're beautiful.
They are. He took some. You took some great pictures, dude. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I need to
And
upload more because I think those are the only two I have on the computer. But
and the
Wow.
energy that you must have been pulling, I don't know if you're sensitive to energy, but I am. A lot of my travels are influenced by what I think I might be able to pull as far as energy from the area. But I'm wondering if you were pulling like some of that ancient intelligence, that ancient energy, because I believe like you, like not too long ago, we here were living in a space where this was an advanced place. And so there was some war, something, a mud flood, whatever happened, and then they reset the place. But I don't think we were unadvanced that long ago. Maybe even like the 1700s, and then history was just lied about because we have ruins here that nobody really wants to explain that seem to be fairly recent. But yeah, I agree with you with these other civilizations and stuff.
yeah, we're taught in school like, oh, what was it, Mesopotamia? That's where everything started, and we were just like nomadic herdsmen or whatever. And then, of course, Egypt, and then just time continues on like that. And then when you actually look into it, and there's a lot of stuff you can research, like I can't think of his name, like Michael Cremo. He has like a few books actually called like Hidden Archaeology, and what he does is him and his friend, colleague, they find all these out of place artifacts and fossils and other things that are in layers of earth that they shouldn't be there. Like they found, I don't remember exactly, but there's like toy figures or figures of people and all this other stuff, like some type of currency, but it was like in the earth at a point like where it shouldn't have been, like compared to
Yeah.
like the other layers. And they just go into it all. And then you also have like Graham Hancock and other people that are let me stop my share here. But you have other people that have
Thank you for
found like,
sharing that, by the way. Thank you.
oh yeah, no problem. And then you have other people like Graham Hancock and them that found like sunken cities, like cities out the coast of India or Japan and other places. And it's like, well, how come we never heard about these cities? Why aren't they there? And then you have the tales of like Atlantis, and there was definitely something that was here before our recorded history. And also you have, if you want to take it biblically, also you could do like when Cain killed Abel, he went to the land of Nod and with other people. Well, who were those other people? Because they were supposed to be the only people, on Earth. So,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
so who were these other people? I think they were whatever built some of these things, but it's just been taken over and made to seem like it was made by, our current time. And then, like, when I was in Peru at Sacsayhuaman, which is a site right outside of Cusco City, which I love Cusco City. If I could, I'd probably like move there for, a season or something. Probably not permanently, but just a great city, safe. You can walk around, look at stuff. They got great food,
That's
everything.
nice.
The people are super nice. Like, I don't know so much about Lima. Lima is kind of, you got to be careful what you do and where you're at, and the traffic is insane in Lima. But in the outskirt places like Paracas and Cusco, people are just super friendly. They'll help you, and it's not like they're like, oh man, I got to help you. Like, they legitimately want to help you, and like just super nice people. But anyway, getting off topic. The Sacsayhuaman place, it's this huge structure of like all these walls and terraces, and like some of those stones are just like the pictures and the videos that you see on like Ancient Aliens don't even do it justice. Like the size of some of these stones are just insane. And then you see like how they're weirdly carved and put together, and it just doesn't make any sense. And then you see the other walls and other stones that you're like, yeah, people made that. Like you can see the mortar in between the stones and all that stuff. But then you have these huge megalithic stones that are just pieced together, and the cracks when they're like touching each other, like you can't even put like a razor blade in there. Like that's how close together they're like stacked and pushed. And we're talking about, you know, thousands of years, and they're still like completely linked and packed together. It's just wild to see.
Wow. I have a question. Did you see the lines, the Nazca lines? Did you get to see those?
Yeah, we took the flight over. It's a little puddle plane. Some people got sick on the plane because of the ocean and all.
That's
The late
terrible.
the lady in front of me got sick. She threw up. They have little like puke bags or whatever, and
Oh, shoot.
she got sick, and it smelled so bad. Like I was
Oh my
like,
God.
I had to be like this.
Oh my God.
And
Oh, man.
there was a kid in the back that was getting sick too, but because the plane, like when they show you the lines, they like dip it to the side, and you're kind of like hanging on for dear life. And but they make sure that everyone gets a window seat. The way the plane's set up, everyone gets a window seat, and they'll go around and then come back so everyone can see whatever picture they're showing. And yeah, I got some footage of that too. I need to put that stuff on my website, but the monkey was really cool. The monkey with the spinny tail.
Yeah.
That one was cool. And the alien guy on the side of the mountain was interesting as well. They call him the astronaut or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, why? And when you fly out there, it's like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes from the airport in Paracas, and there's literally nothing around. There's absolutely nothing. It's all like desert, and there's no like houses or anything. It's just in the middle of nowhere. and you're like, why did they do this? What was the point? And like you can't see it on the ground. You have to be.
That is a great point, dude. And that brings me to my next little roundtable discussion. I want to start with you, and I want to know. Give me a good theory, your best theory as to how they put those lines and those geoglyphs in, and what their purpose was. Go.
So you have the pictures, and then you have the long strips. And I think, you know, the standard thing for Ancient Aliens and all that is they were runways, and that's all that they look like. Like I wouldn't think anything else. If someone said that's a runway, I'd be like, oh yeah, definitely. Cool.
Right.
Now the pictures themselves, I think now the tour guide has his own spiel because they have to stick with the main. So his view is that they made these huge glyphs in the sand in the desert because they wanted to make the gods happy so that it would rain or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if I can buy that because that's a very arid place. Like I said, there is nothing around. There's no ancient structures there. There's no buildings. There's no farm. It's just, you know, nothing.
The ingenuity that went into making it is what astounds me. And my question is how the hell do they do it?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the accepted theory is that they made these drawings to appease the gods so that they would get whatever they wanted. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem that way. It seems more like a calling card, like, hey, look at me, or look at this as you're coming down or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially the astronaut guy, he's in like the side of this little like mountain thing, and like you wouldn't, it's not like facing the sky or anything. It's literally just on the like side of the mountain. So you literally have to like fly by to see it. It's not something you would see from like straight down or anything like that. So like I don't know how they explain that one. And then you have like there's smaller little like humanoid figures that are around the mountain as well. And they're supposed to be like the royal family of the time that they were made. But I don't know, the whole site is just wild. It's crazy. And the fact that we could fly over and look at it all. And they have these little watchtowers. There's like long roads, I guess, so you can get there if you want to go on foot. And they have these watchtowers that you can look and see. But we talked with a lady later on in the trip that did the watchtower only. She didn't take the flight. She said she barely could like tell what the drawings were from the watchtower.
Right.
She's like, I wish I would have took the plane because I couldn't really tell.
Wow. So what do you what's your let's get your, I'd like to get your outlook on that. What do you think? How do you think, would you speculate that they put it there, and why?
Yeah, I think the narrative is very primitive, and I think unfortunately, like the politics of this plane has been those with advanced technology knowledge and placement have always kept primitive populations in order to revere them. I mean, isn't that the story of Zeus? Zeus got pissed off because humans were getting tired of their crap, right? So when the slaves don't want to cooperate anymore, it challenges the validity of quote unquote gods, which I believe are only just people of whatever genetic background who happen to establish some sort of advanced technology, much like now we have the elite, the billionaires that are doing things in the shadows, in lands that we're not supposed to know exist, with technology that we're not supposed to know that they're using, and we're kept as these peons. So, I feel like the narrative is always primitive for the most part, but I think that the plane has always had these geolocations where, and I'm going to send you a link on Facebook. It's on the New Earth channel, and it's a documentary by Gary Shonung, and it's the ancient sites of Earth. But it shows you all kinds of places, even underwater, where there were lines, just like the Nazca lines and other things like that, holes and mounds and stuff like that. But I think that, I think at one point, this plane was governed as one whole space instead of like individual sovereign spaces. And because there was so much activity, like advanced, travel activity, a lot of these geoplaces were used to navigate. Like a lot of these advanced bases are under mountain ranges, and that's because the rock formations of mountains are impenetrable. Because it's the most durable rocks that formation that you're gonna, and that's why they're there. A lot of these ancient bases are under these mountain ranges, which we built off of or inherited. And so when you have the Nazca lines, and you have the pyramids, you have the ley lines and all this other stuff, I think this was all part of one network of communication and traversing, So when we have these things in these things in isolated areas, we think it's exclusive to that area, but I think it's part of a bigger picture of communication and things like that. When I send you this link, and if you have time to watch this, you're going to understand what I mean, because there are sites with a lot of these types of things that aren't even talked about, that most people don't know about. So, this documentary is pretty significant, and it might be something you want to share with your MUFON group. So yeah. I'll get that over to you as soon as possible. But that's basically my take on it.
Yeah, send it over. We'll take a look at it. I appreciate that, She. Thank you very much. Yep. Jake, you got a quick thought you want to throw in on this?
No, it's good you saved me for last because I am not very knowledgeable on the Nazca lines. Um, I'm not sure if there's any archaeology that's been done around them, looking for any type of ruin or proof of civilization. That would be my first thought, that it would be some civilization that might have just been lost to time.
That's the
Um,
story, isn't it? Isn't that the story, Jeremiah, that nobody knows what happened to that civilization that put it there? Like they just vanished?
Yeah, same thing with like the Incas. They have their like, what they are supposed to tell tourists and stuff of what happened to the Incas, but in all reality, they just basically vanished and disappeared off the face of the earth, like, and no one really knows. Like, they have theories, obviously, but it's like this crazy civilization that like was so into like medicines, and they build all these structures, like I said, in person it's just insane. Like, you're thinking about these primitive people who are living in the Andes or right out of the Amazon, and they're what you would typically think of like a primitive person, but yet they're making all these like crazy walls and fortifications and all these different terraces to like because Peru is the originator of the potato, and
Wow.
they found a way, because originally the potato was not edible, and through these step terraces they were able to make it edible. What they would do is like make all these large step type things, and they would let the water run through, and then they would plant, and then they would go up a level and plant, and they would see the changes, and once they got to that certain point, then it became edible. And it's pretty wild. And every Peruvian meal it comes with French fries and rice. Almost
Wow.
every meal that you get, like
I
French
could do
fries
that.
is on the menu.
Dang. Wow. How's the food? Is it good?
Oh yeah, really good. Everything is fresh, like straight from either the Amazon or the Andes Mountains. They don't have a lot of like heavily processed stuff, but they do love their KFC. They have a lot of KFCs there. And they have McDonald's, of course. McDonald's is everywhere. But
That's cool.
yeah, their local cuisine is just fantastic. I even ate guinea pig. I gave it a try.
How was that?
It tasted like roast pork. It
Really?
was, yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, what did it taste like, chicken?" I'm like, "No, it actually tasted like roast pork."
Oh, that's not doesn't
yeah,
sound too
man,
bad.
guinea pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only downside was there wasn't a lot of meat, because obviously it's a small thing.
Right.
But it's their delicacy, and it was kind of pricey compared to the other food, but I was like, I gotta try it at least once.
Right. Well, I appreciate. Thank you for sharing with us all that information about your trip. It sounds like you had a great trip, and I enjoyed following you on your trip on Facebook. I really enjoyed that. So thank you for sharing your trip with everybody, man. You brought us all with you, man, and
Oh, I got one
uh,
more thing.
yeah,
Um, so our last tour, which was the Lake Titicaca tour, and the Lake Titicaca is like humongous. Like, I think they said it's the size of Puerto Rico or something. It's humongous.
I know
It
about Lake
Wow.
Titicaca from Beavis and Butthead.
But it when you're on it, it feels like you're on an ocean. It doesn't feel like a lake
Really?
at all. And there's like islands on it, and we actually went to some of the islands. And but our tour guide, my fiance, like, was talking to him, and she's like, "Hey, I know you got to tell us certain things because it's part of the tour or whatever, but she's like, can you just be honest with me and like tell me, like, do you know any have you experienced any like UFOs, or have you had any paranormal type experiences?" She's like, "I know." She's like, "Off the record, just be straight with us," because he actually grew up on one of the islands on the lake and
Really?
does tours now. And because these little islands, they have like their own little school and their own communities, and they grow their own food, and it's pretty interesting. They have like their own little societies, and
That's
um,
neat, man. That's really neat.
Yeah, and so they don't pay like taxes or anything to Peru, but Peru doesn't give them any help, so they're pretty much on their own. They're kind of like their own sovereign island. um, so yeah, she asked him that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I see all kinds of stuff here." She's like, "I see floating lights." He's like, I hear about UFOs from friends." He's like, um, "We even have tales from our from like my great grandparents of like mermaids or mermaid type beings being in the lake and stuff like
That's
that."
wow. That's fascinating.
So he really like divulged a lot of information that we weren't really expecting, but she was like, "Just be straight with us, like, because we're into that kind of stuff." And he told us all about how he's seen lights come out of the lake and lights hover over the mountains and stuff like that. And he's like,
That's
they weren't
cool.
planes. And so he gave us some information from the actual like local people.
Wow, thank you for sharing, man. That's fascinating. We're running out of time. You have could you tell us about your website and your YouTube channel just for our listeners that we can check out? And also, I want to post some. If you'll send me links, I want to. If you, I want to share links to those on our Facebook page, so people can check out your content. But what's your website?
So the website is whatifpod.com. And I don't have a YouTube channel, at least not yet, but I have a podcast, and it's What If They're Wrong with a question mark. And you'll know it when you see What If They're Wrong with like a half alien face
And
on
check
the
it out.
logo.
Check it
And
out. It's a great show.
So whatifpod.com, and then my show, What If They're Wrong. It's on all major podcast platforms. And basically my show is I just present, well, I present some things, but I have a lot of guests on, and I let them present what they know, their knowledge or their research. And basically the show is like presenting information, and then it's up to the audience or whoever listens to decide what they want to take from it and what they want to believe. I'm not like preachy or like trying to shove something down your throat. It's more like, here's what this person researched or what they're into, and you can take away whatever you want to take away from it. But all the conversations are 100% real, and these people have had experiences or have done a lot of research. They're not just, talking out their butt. It's all legitimate stuff. And
Wow.
I cover a wide range of topics. So one week might be like ghosts, the next week might be aliens, and then the next week could be Bigfoot. And then I have shows coming out soon that are going to be branching out even further. Like I interviewed a lady who did ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is like a hallucinogenic brew that they do in the Amazon.
Mhm.
And it basically became her matchmaker, and she ended up finding the lover of her life because of that.
Wow, that's so weird. That's crazy. That's wild.
So that's coming out. And then I just try to get a ton of different minds on the show and just have a good conversation about paranormal stuff, fringe stuff,
Yeah.
and stuff that you don't hear
She would
all
be a
over.
good candidate for that. She would be a really good interview for you. I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
We'll be up for it
definitely.
anytime.
So I just try to keep it as real as possible. And I don't agree or believe everything that's said on my show or like all my guests say, but
Right. Me too.
I want to give them a chance to get their information out or have a platform to talk. And like, I personally don't believe in flat earth, but I had Flat Earth Dave on, and we had a really good conversation and why he believes what he believes. And he gave examples, and we had a good talk about, why he's so adamant about the earth being flat. And, like I said, I don't believe it, but it was a good conversation. And
Right. It was a fun, engaging conversation. I bet.
Yeah, I just like picking people's minds, and it's like kind of like a judgment-free zone.
That sounds really cool, man. I tell you what, I definitely enjoyed hospitality, being with you that one time, and I'd love the opportunity in some way to collaborate again sometime with you. I've really enjoyed having you on the program.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, and Jake and she, thank you also for being with me today and adding to making this conversation amazing. I appreciate both of you, and we look forward to being with all of you again. Please check out his website and his YouTube channel or his podcast. We're going to drop links on our Facebook page to those here really soon. So please check out his content. It's wonderful. He's a great guy, and we've sure really enjoyed having him on. Thank you for being with us.
Good interviewing with you, Jeremiah. Take care.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
You're listening to Project Stargate Fringe Research. This is Mark Brenner signing off. Y'all have a good day.